Coaching Soccer Weekly, episode 390, Left Wing versus Right Wing. Entertaining, educational, and inspiring soccer content to help make you a more effective coach, player, or soccer parent. Hello and welcome back to Coaching Soccer Weekly, presented by World Class Coaching. My name is Sergey Brabinovich, and this is the podcast devoted to bringing you cutting-edge methods, techniques, and tactics for coaching soccer. It doesn't matter if you're an experienced coach who has been training teams for many years, or if you're new to coaching and working with the team for the very first time. There's something we can all do to take our coaching to the next level. With the season being over, there's just really looking forward to the indoor season. The indoor season starts at the end of October, so for us, we have a break now. Now, I, being the soccer fanatic and coaching fanatic that I am, got an email and decided to do a friendly against another team. So much for weekends off until indoor season. That will be October 14th. So our 2014s and then our 2013s have a game. Now, both of those teams look very different than the outdoor teams. We're finally splitting the 2015s from the 2014s. However, I did decide to have those 2015s come and play, kind of the same team as the outdoor team. So that's going to be one team. But that 2014 team will have some of the newer players that weren't there in outdoor. So we're going to get those players involved in that October 14th game, which is, I think, a couple of weeks away from now. So a couple of Saturdays away. Our 2013, same thing, some new players in there, but most of our 2013 team is actually the same. So that's going to be interesting. We'll see how we do. And yeah, just me being me. So I'll be spending that Saturday coaching. Now those games are going to be in the afternoon, which is very rare. Usually most games that I've coached in the summer have been in the morning. So close to my parents' house, so I'll probably go down there in the morning and then go coach and yeah. So it's kind of closer to downtown. I mean, I'm pretty far from downtown Toronto, so a little bit of a drive, but should be a lot of fun. We are this week, actually tomorrow is going to be our first day going indoors. So that's really what I'm focusing on. The first week, we're going to get in there and we're just going to figure out the environment. And we're going to be talking constantly, me and my other coaches, just kind of figuring out what can we do to best maximize the environment. And that's really important. Every time you get into a new environment, whether it's a new field that you're renting, new gym, new turf, whatever it is, it's very important to go back to the basics while you kind of get familiar with the environment. Then you start to create the environment that you're looking for, but you can't just let the environment do the talking. You have to coach, right? So an example of that would be something like a game of wall ball, right? Kind of like a soccer squash, right? Where you would just let the players play for an hour. That's a good environment. They're not getting anything from it. They're just getting repetition. It's up to you to every 3 minutes kind of get in there, stop play, make a new point. One point could be when the ball is coming in the air, make sure to get your body behind it, right? And then you can go over the different parts of the body and talk about how to control using the thigh, the chest, the head, the inside of the foot, the outside, all that, right? But you can't just go let them play and say, well, that's the environment. The environment's going to do the work, and I'm just going to sit back and have a coffee. So you can't do that. So that's going to really be what this week is all about. Getting into those gyms. We have 2 different places that we're using and just kind of figuring out how to best utilize it and go from there. The plan is rondos, 1v1s, tactics. That's it. That's what we start with. Usually it starts with 1v1s and rondos. Rondos, just to start for the first kind of 15, 20 minutes so that players can come in. It's a new place, so parents drive and they might get lost, getting into the facility, stuff like that. So you always want to give them some time to really just make sure they're finding their way to into the building and getting into the gym. So that's going to be this week. Now, I'm really excited to get into this topic today, and it's right wing versus left wing. Now, I love doing these types of titles because they're completely misleading, and it's probably not what you think it is. When we talk about politics, we talk about right wing and left wing, and it's really interesting because I went to summer camp that was growing up, and it was very left wing. It was very kind of community and, sharing and all that stuff. And ever since I was a kid, that's what I associated as left wing. And if that's left wing, then right wing is kind of the opposite of that. So I took that and I made it into a soccer concept. And that's how I think about soccer. If you are a left-wing coach, it just really means that you are a coach that focuses on passing, right? Sharing, getting everyone involved. If you are a very right-wing coach, it means that you are very dribbling-oriented, 1v1 oriented. And it's a very interesting concept because in order to be a good coach, in my opinion, you've got to be really good at extremes. So from a left-wing point of view, you got to be really, really good at it. And from a right-wing point of view, you got to be really, really good at that too. And then it's up to you to find a balance of finding the middle ground. And that's a very important quality in a coach. I always look at my teams and I find that on that spectrum, we always lean one way. And there are times where we lean too much left-wing, and I don't see any 1v1s. And then there are other times where we lean too much right wing and I don't see any passing. And it's just attack 1v1 moves and lose the ball and all that. So for me, both of those are really an important part of developing players. And I think it's really important for you as a coach to find mentors in both of those extremes. Very confidently, I can say that my success as a coach has been because I've studied under the extremists of both of these disciplines. I've been around, in my opinion, the best left-wing coaches and the best right-wing coaches. And I've developed a coaching philosophy which divides those two opportunities for players and gives them that developmental structure that allows for both a right wing and a left wing education. Now, I don't want you to get confused. This has nothing to do with politics. So I don't want you coming at me with Democrat, Republican. No, that's not what I'm talking about at all. Not even close. I'm not saying anything like that politically. All I'm saying is that when I grew up, this is kind of how I saw the world. And I was in a camp where for us, we shared it all. It was, everyone would bring X amount of money to camp. We would pool it together and then we would go on an excursion with our unit, which was our age group. And we would total up the money and we would just divide it by the number of people that we had. And to me, that we were known as a very left-wing type camp. So when I think about that left wing, that's what I think about. Can we share it with everyone? And that's where everything comes from. So please don't come at me with all this political stuff because I'm a very not political person. So anyway, let's get into left wing. Let's get into right wing. And if that's how we define left wing, then it makes sense that from a left wing point of view, when you're focusing on left wing tactics and left wing development, you're really focusing on how we play as a team. And for me, the way we teach that is rondos. Everything that we do is some sort of rondo, and it's a tactical rondo, right? So everything has to have a, why am I doing this from a team point of view? Or else there's really no reason to do it because it makes it game-like, right? If you're just doing it to pass the ball, that's not a game-like environment, and then you're not doing anything with it, right? So that doesn't make sense to me. So a left wing attitude would be, can we use rondos, which to me is the most realistic way to get a tactical environment for a team? Can we use that to create an understanding of how our teams play and how we share the ball, just like my camp did, right? How we all shared, the money and all that at the camp. Now, if we take that as the left wing and we understand that, then we take the right wing as the complete opposite. Has to be, right? It's the complete opposite. And it's the attitude of, I have the ball. It's not about anyone else. What can I do with it? What can I, as the player who has the ball, do with it to affect the game, to make the game better, to make it better for my team? And to me, that's getting through a player, right? Now, you can talk about a right-wing approach from the attitude of, what do I do when I don't have the ball? Because that's still a very individualistic approach to it that we can take. But when we take the first example from the right wing, it has to be 1v1. There is nothing else that can come close to it. Now, we've created these two environments of rondos and 1v1s, but they have to be an environment that's very game-like, which is why we do the 1v1s and rondos the way that we do them. And they also have to be developmentally effective. So what makes something effective? Well, for me, it's how much effort needs to be put in, right? So if we think of a simple drill, because it is a drill, just line passing, right? There's no difficulty there. There's not a lot of effort there, right? As soon as you put in an opponent in a situation, it makes it difficult. As soon as you reduce the space, it makes it difficult. So by increasing the number of opponents, or by decreasing the space, we can make something more effective, which is why I like both the rondos and the 1v1 environment that we create in our practice sessions. Now, I've talked about those two concepts so much that there's no need to talk about them and how we do them, because if that's something that you want to know, then just go back and listen to previous episodes. I'm sure I talk about them every episode, so you can go back and listen to that. But what I really wanted to focus on was, how do you find a balance between the two? To me, that's something that's very, very difficult to do. Now, as you know, I listen to audiobooks in my car. It's one of my favorite things to do. And there's a book series that I am absolutely obsessed with. I just finished it. I'm waiting for the new one to come out. It's going to be book 10, and now I just restarted everything. And the book is called He Who Fights with Monsters. And it's really about a guy who wakes up in a different world and gets all these different types of abilities, and some amazing, incredible things happen. But what I love is it's kind of like a training montage for, every book at a certain point has that. And what continuously happens throughout it is that he, the man who fights the monsters, puts himself in situations where he has to use his weakest ability and put it in a stressful environment that he's forced to use it, so it gets better and better and better and eventually catches up to his other abilities. So what he says in the book that I'm on now, which I think is book 3, because I restarted it, is the first ever ability that he had was called Midnight Eyes. And Midnight Eyes was the ability to see in the dark. And by book 3, it is by far his most advanced skill, because he uses it every single day when it's dark out. He works on that skill over and over again. And I think that's a very true concept, even in soccer. So what I look for on the field to try and find that balance is, what is the weakest between the right wing and the left wing? What is it that we're not doing? What is it that we are struggling with? And then I'll work more of that in next week. So a perfect example would be our 2016 players. Our 2016 players haven't played a game yet. They've guest played, maybe 4 of them have guest played, maybe once or twice. So if you look at their skills and what they need up till this indoor season, they haven't played a competitive game. So why are we working on left wing? I get a lot of emails asking me, Segev, when do I know when it's time to start doing tactics? When should I organize my team in a 2-3-1 and work on formations and stuff like that? And in my opinion, not until you have to. Why would I put my 2016s, why would I give them 20 minutes of a tactical rondo when they're not going to be doing any of that at all? That makes no sense. Only now going into the season, their first season, now we'll start putting that. Contrast that with our 2010s, who are going into 11v11 in the summer. And the question is, when we get into that 11v11 environment, do they know what they're doing? If the answer is no, then we have to go a little bit more left wing. So as players get older, then you can shift it from right wing to left wing. But once they understand their roles on the field, then you can shift it back into right wing again. So it's a constant understanding of your team that you need to have, and watching the game and seeing what's missing. If I look at my game with my 2011s and I consistently see my defender doing a fake shot to get, which would be a fake cross at that point, to get the player to commit with a play behind the leg, and then he does a Maradona to beat that player and makes a pass, I understand that from a right wing point of view, he's doing okay. So I don't need to spend 45 minutes in the right wing environment. Now, I want to be clear. You never, ever, ever, ever shift the needle fully one way. I never do that. There's always an element of both. So if I see that my teams are lacking 1v1s, instead of 30 minutes of tactical rondos of some sort, right? So like a warm-up rondo with another 15 minutes of tactical stuff. And then I would do 30 minutes of 1v1s. That's usually how we break it, right? Half tactical in rondos, half 1v1s. If I see that my team is not doing enough 1v1s, or that their 1v1s are not that effective, guess what? The next session is now 75% 1v1s, 10% rondos, and then the rest of that would be tactical rondos, right? So that's 85, so then another 15% of tactical rondos. So we're always doing all three, always, but we shift the needle based on what we need. And that's the attitude that you have to have. Now, what I would urge you to do is find those mentors from the right wing and from left wing, right? So for me, very early on in my coaching career, I had that. I was very fortunate to have someone who was very right wing. And then I realized that I lacked the left wing approach. So I went out and I searched and searched and searched. And then I finally found someone that I felt like I could trust, and I learned under them. And now I've been able to create this very great harmony, in my opinion, between the two. And I'm able to adjust it based on the needs of my team. So if you have a team of under sevens and they're not playing league games this year, why go into left wing at all? That makes no sense. They don't need to learn that. It's not important. They should be focusing on the 1v1s. And I've had parents of 2016 players that have come to me and said, Segev, I think my child needs to go into that left wing, the tactical rondos, where the 2016s, literally all they do, 15 minutes of rondos, the rest is 1v1s. That's it. The rest of the session is 1v1s. Right? And the parent comes, Segev, tactical. And I say, why? What's the point? So he can be ready for something that's a year away? Why? Why would I give him that education where it's not important, it's not crucial for him at this moment? For him to be on that team and be an effective player, he's got to be great individually. Individually, my 2016s are strong. That I know. I know that they have, for 3 years now, most of them, 2 years or even 1 year, they have been in an environment where they are getting battered, they are getting tackled, they are getting pushed, they are getting elbowed, and they are coming out of that every single session happy, laughing, loving that environment. So I know they can go to war. And I know that in our first game, left wing, we are going to struggle. We aren't even going to be close. But we're going to be able to be effective. So guess what? In those sessions leading up to our first game, in those sessions for probably the first 2-3 months, those sessions are going to be maybe 40% 1v1s, 60% rondos, tactical rondos, so that the players can really start to understand. And I'm going to put players in situations that they're going to be on the field. So for example, I've got 2 players that are going to be our defenders. They're going to be kind of the players in the back that move the ball, that are the quarterbacks of the team. So I'm going to put them in an environment, a 2v2 environment, where they're playing together. They are having to be forced to play together. They are forced to defend together. They are forced to communicate both defensively and offensively. They are forced to pass the ball to each other, understand how each other thinks, talks, everything. But that is the environment that they're going to be in the game. So that is something that they are going to need to experience over and over and over and over again. So every 2v2 game, those 2 players are together. Now we have this situation mainly, we go fully right wing with new players. Every new player that comes into our academy, fully right wing. I have no doubt in my mind if they are coming from another club or academy, they're great passers. But 1v1s, they are very weak. So why would I focus on passing? That makes no sense. Why would I focus on tactics where they can't hold their own on 1v1s? And that's where they're lacking. So for them, the session looks different than a player on the team. They both go to the game, right? In the game, they're both still in that middle spot, right? That's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for great left wing and right wing players. So that new player, he'll start passing the ball in the games. That's what he'll do every game. But slowly, when he starts at that left wing, the furthest you can go left wing, that extremist, he'll start edging to the right wing because he's constantly exposed to that in the training environment. And that's how you move the needle based on the player. And that's how you create an environment from a developmental point of view that's individualistic and great for every player. So we have 2 sessions running at the same time. I usually do the tactical. My other coach does the 1v1, and then I'll pick the players. I think Eric, Johnny, and Jamie, they all need 1v1. And Todd, Jared, and Bob, they did some great Maradonas. I saw some scissors, some great shooting, fantastic. So I'm going to take them for rondos. I'm going to take them for tactical rondos, right? And that way you're constantly getting the best of both worlds. So by the time they're older and they're ready to get into high school, university, try out for professional, they are so balanced and understand that. And they've had throughout their whole developmental education, they've had the best of both worlds. And to me, that's effective. And to me, that's development. Thanks for listening to another episode of Coaching Soccer Weekly. I really appreciate you supporting me. And if you're looking for other ways to support the show, there are so many ways. You can join our Facebook group. You can subscribe. You can tell another coach. You can also join Soccer Coaching Mastermind. Now, I don't update that website. I put in a bunch of videos there. It's just a way that I feel like I can give back if you want to support me on this journey. I think the cost is still $10. It's pretty cheap for a month, like a cup of coffee. That's not something that I'll update a lot, but if there are any videos that you want to see on there, please send me an email and I will do my best to put that on as fast as I can. There's a lot of things going on right now, especially moving into indoor and getting ready for this upcoming indoor season. So just getting into that new space is a lot. And then on top of that, the private school. So I'm loving every second of it and I love what I do and I never complain. So this is being happy while you're busy, which is something that I love. So I appreciate all that support. And until next week, enjoy the journey, enjoy the moments, but most importantly, enjoy the game. Coaching.
Hey, thanks for watching all the way to the end. And you can check out more of our videos right here. And if you haven't done so already, I would really appreciate it if you'd hit the like button and the subscribe button.